I have a question.
Yes.
Who is speaking?
Is there is truth in relationship?
No, let me find out who is speaking.
Yeah, this is Shankar Rao, sir. I'm your fan.
Oh,
Oh, Shankar. Shankar. Okay. Shankar is joining us after a very long
Yes, sir.
time.
I have a question. We believe in this relationship with all the objects, ideas, and people. Is there truth in relationship? Uh, it is a belief. That's all. That it is my phone. It is my property. She is my wife. Everything is just a belief. It's not true. Thank you, sir.
we only need to ensure that the opposite of it doesn't become a belief. That this is not my phone, this is not my wife, right? This may be a belief, a false belief that this is my phone, my computer, my wife, my child. It could be a belief. But to end this, we must be careful that we don't create the opposite of it, that she is not my wife. I think one has to understand completely this whole thing called attachment, possessiveness. Just by creating another belief in reaction to this belief, uh, I doubt whether it can
Yeah.
go
Uh,
go far. Yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to say that not just for the sake of saying that it's not mine. With understanding, if you see, it is there that that object, whether you call it as a phone or a water bottle, whatever is there, it is there. That's all. In the same way, a woman is there. You can see it as a human being under the same roof, or you can see it as a wife. It's up to you. There's no question of saying I don't believe. Again, it's when you don't, without understanding, if you're saying,
Mm.
then there is definitely you live in that belief that no, she is not my wife. No, that is without understanding, if you say. But when you understand things, she is there. Yes, she is there, and it is there. That's all. That it exists. That's all. Thank you.
Well, can I ask something here? So since we sort of came on to attachment, and I think Chaitanya had asked a pretty important question about the opposite. Uh, but is attachment only there in uh, you know when it is being recognized? Let's say when I recognize somebody or something as mine, is that the only time that attachment is operating? Or my recognition is a different kind of movement than the actual relationship, which may involve attachment, which may involve possessiveness, and not wanting to let something move on. Yeah.
You want me to take this, Kamalji?
Yeah, please, Chaitanya. Please.
Yeah, but what I feel is, you see, the problem is same, as was very beautifully expressed by Kabir, that दुख में सुमिरन सब करें, सुख में करे न कोई, जो सुख में सुमिरन करे तो दुख काहे हो. We all think of, I mean, perhaps he meant some formless God, only when there is suffering. But if we thought of him when there was happiness, then there would be no suffering perhaps. You see, we examine a relationship only when we see disturbance in it, friction in it. As long as it's all right, as long as my wife is submissive or I am submissive to her, the child is obedient, I have a job, I can get another if I leave this. We don't examine those things. Now, the challenge is to examine all relationships, even without there being any friction in them. Potentially, they all may lead to friction. Any relationship that I have, any thought that I have, any image that I have, they are all potentially explosive. They can any moment explode because life, that's how life expresses itself, that's how life teaches. It's always knocking at the door. You may just put 5 blocks, you may put security guards, it finds a way of entering through some small crevice, through some small hole. And that's how it keeps trying to awaken us to the fact that, you see, there's a very beautiful statement that Krishnaji makes. See, on the one hand, he says that to be is to be related, and on the other, I think it is in the first and last freedom, he says, after all, in love, there is no relationship. Now, how do we understand this statement? He says, after all, in love, there is no relationship. Does he mean that we are related because we are? To be is to be related because we exist, we are related. And also that all relationships can lead to suffering sooner or later. What we find very pleasant now may turn into something appallingly toxic, damage every aspect of your uh, being, simply because you just thought things would always be the same way as they are now. So, examination of the seed of ego, not when it becomes explosive, not when it begins to burn your whole house down, but seeing it before it has manifested itself. I think there is wisdom in that, perhaps. Krishnaji is saying, die every day. There's a beautiful statement attributed to Christ. He says, watch and pray, lest thou be tempted. Now, why watch and pray? Why die every day? Why? If his ego has ended irreversibly once and for all, why does he have to die every day? Does it come back every day? Does it come back at night every day and again in the morning you die to it? Maybe it's like that. The self can always, it has been compared to the Greek god Proteus. I mean, you can't, it's very elusive. You can't hold on to it. It's very slippery. You catch it and it just slips out of your hands. It's the god of water. Now, can we see that conflict, the unexpressed conflicts in relationships? Not that you look for a conflict, not that you invite conflict, but can one observe that a relationship, any relationship that we have, ideologically, I may be a Sanghi or a communist and surrounded by my communist friends or Sanghi friends, and I'm not worried, nothing happens. But as long as somebody from the Congress party attacks my beliefs, I become aggressive. Do I wait for it, or I can see these seeds that ego is all this. As long as the ego is there, it will bring about conflict. It will make me aggressive. It will make me unhappy. It will make me depressed, it can make me suicidal, anything. As long as I can observe that, it is there, it can be ended. That's why people like K have suggested that we go to the origin of a thought. Can you follow a thought to its origin? Because it's at the origin lies the trouble. Otherwise, you can, it's like a stream flowing downward and you keep cleaning some pollution, polluted water comes down and you keep cleaning the debris where you are. But you can never go to the source and clean it there. And if you don't clean it there, you can never clean it at any other point. Now, the question is that, do we actually find the source of all suffering? Is it possible? It is said that the suffering, dukkha, is anadi, but it is not anant. It has no beginning, but it has an ending. Now, if it has no beginning, I cannot reach the source of the suffering, what does it mean? Does it mean that every moment it is arising? Any thought that arises has in it the seed of suffering. So watching the beginning may also mean watching every thought, because in it lies hidden the seed, however small, minuscule it could be, but it is in every thought. It is there in every thought. Any relationship you have, any meeting you have, any union you have, it carries in it own womb its own opposite. If there's pleasure, there's a possibility of pain in it also. I may have said something which had nothing to do with the original theme, but I just shared what came to my mind.
So
Yeah.
is it not because of perceiving through name and form this so-called thought or suffering, whatever you are saying, Arabs? If you perceive as it is without recognition, without name and form,
No,
you may say it's not possible. How can you stay in a state of mind where you don't recognize anything? It's stupidity, no doubt. But even though when you are pursuing with name and form, with knowledge, if you are aware, because I'm seeing through knowledge, uh, through memory, through name and form, all this suffering or whatever you call pain or any number of words you get, it is all coming. You could able to perceive suffering because of. Am I right, sir?
mm, again, there was an if. When you started your observation, you started it with an if. I don't know if whether it is because of Nam Roop, because that, yes, maybe that very labeling, very naming is the beginning of thought. The moment I name, recognize something, which means become familiar with it again. That could be the beginning, but we need to explore whether that's the beginning, whether naming, labeling is the beginning of this thought process. And therefore, Krishnaji says, can you just watch without naming? Maybe naming could be the beginning, but again, this is a question that we have to actually explore in our own psyche. Whether thought process begins with that naming. And I don't say that it is not possible to do that. I never said that it's not possible. If we could very clearly understand that it's something impossible, then we are just wasting our time. We would be wasting our time discussing every week something of this nature. So,
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah,
Mm.
please.
Sir, my question is, if a kind of relationship provoke a particular kind of negative thought, should I stay away from relationship, or how should I behave? আই এম আস্কিং ইন বেঙ্গলি।
Yeah,
মানে
please.
ধরুন আমার একটা মানে অথরিটি আছে, আমি একটা অফিসে চাকরি করি। তো সেখানে আমার অফিসার যে হায়ার অথরিটি, সে যখন আমাকে একটা কিছু ব্যাপার নিয়ে খুব বাজে বিহেভ করে, তখন আমার মধ্যে যে অ্যাংজাইটি বা ওরিডটা তৈরি হয়, সেটা তো আমি অবজার্ভ করছি বা খাতায় লিখছি বা যা হোক কিছু করছি। কিন্তু মানে শুড আই স্টে অ্যাওয়ে ফ্রম, বা হোয়াট শুড আই ডু?
Before you can, I mean, don't think I am an authority on this. So
No,
don't
no,
get
I'm just
frustrated.
asking.
Yeah, I'm saying that as long as either avoid him or find a way of just walking around him or ignore him, it's okay. But eventually, you may find another such person in your life. May leave him, may find somebody in your own family who is like that, or among somebody among your friends. So eventually, you have to deal with this. I mean, you can escape from one person, but you can't escape from all relationships. And any relationship is likely to become like something in which one person is very dominating, very assertive, control freak, and you have to deal with it. So here, the practical solution is, if you can avoid, just avoid.
Okay.
Chaitanya, just wanted to go back briefly to the point that Shankar was making, because we have an interesting program coming up in Rajghat. We have a retreat coming up, where the theme is, can we live without identification? So I mean, you just brought up the question in my mind: to what extent is actually the issue of identification? You said name, form, etc., etc. Isn't that a fundamental problem in a relationship? I'm just saying, examining that personally. Sometimes it comes so naturally. So if I'm somebody who has always identified, with a strong Hindu sentiment or a strong Christian sentiment or whatever, it's so much in my consciousness that it seems to come up in relationship also. So I'm just wondering to what extent that whole construct of identification, which starts very early, and whether looking at that as the foundation, of problems in relationship. And just thought that we could look at that also in our own time, or whatever if we have time to explore. But I thought it very relevant. It's a very current problem also, the problem of identification. All over the world, not just in India, everywhere it's the same problem. But how significant is identification as a problem in relationships? I just wanted to put that question for the chat, or anybody else wants to chip in with that.
I just have a thought.
Yeah.
Who are we without our identity? Like, who am I without my identity?
It is very simple, madam. We all know we all are reading here for years together. Teachings not just of Krishnamurti, of everybody, of course. Madam, you are made of thoughts, you are made of knowledge since childhood. It is as simple as that. You don't exist. You exist, of course, not without this knowledge you exist. That is your real existence. And I am talking now not for answering this madam, but I want to help this gentleman by name Real Me 7. Sir, I don't know your name.
His name is Pavitra, Shankar. His name is Pavitra.
Pavitra, very nice name.
Pavitra. Yes.
Pavitra, very beautiful name. Mr. Pavitra,
Yes, sir.
you have to understand the teachings. Let it take its own time, no problem. Once you understand the teachings wholly, you will understand that both you and your boss, whoever it is, or tomorrow your wife, as he said, right, Chaitanya ji, everybody is made, we all are made of the same knowledge, okay? We got from the society, okay? And once you understand that, you will understand that arrogant man who is shouting on you is operating from the same knowledge, okay? Because he is giving he has meanings for the words, and he's believing the meaning of those words. Suppose he told you, stupid fellow, you are very late, okay? He's believing that meaning of that word, stupid fellow, you are late, all the meanings of those words, he's believing those words, okay? And you're also believing those words. That is why you are getting hurt when he said like that. So in the course of learning or teaching in few months or years, you will understand those words and those meanings have no meaning at all. You got my point? they
Yes,
are
yes.
they are just words, and they're just noise coming from the other person's mouth. Once you understand that, then what happens? You know the meaning of compassion. I'll explain you. The meaning of compassion means, once you understand the truth that we are operating from the mind, we are operating from the mental concepts, we are suffering, having pleasure, pain, everything because of the mental concepts coming out of the knowledge. Once you understand that, there will be a state, you will be watching people who are suffering because of the mental concepts. Suppose a mom is crying because a child died, okay, and a saint is looking at that mom and the child, okay. So if he is feeling bad for that mom, why is feeling bad? He is not feeling bad because she is crying for the child. He is feeling bad that she is still imprisoned in the concept of thought, concept of mind, that something called attachment, the relationship. So he's showing compassion for her. So he want her to come out of that concepts of mind and understand the fact, actually, that everything which takes birth has to die one day. Okay, so you will start seeing the other people operating through thought, operating through mind, and you'll show compassion towards them. Hope I could able to convey what I tried to. Thank you, sir.
No, no, exactly, sir. I'm being able to understand your word.
Uh,
Thanks a lot.
yeah, thank you, Shankar. Kamalji said something about identification, and he described it as the fundamental problem. He described it as the fundamental problem. If I may suggest, there is something deeper than identification, which then becomes more fundamental, if I may use that expression, than the problem of identification. Why do I identify? If you scratch the surface, maybe you see that there is a sense of uh, incompleteness underneath that identification. Why I treat you as my best friend and remain attached to you or to talk to you every morning, every evening, is because I feel incomplete without you. So that incompleteness, a sense of being unfulfilled and seeking fulfillment through identification, through Ajiddu Krishnamurti, through Kamal Thakkar, through a book, through music, could be seems to be a much deeper problem than the problem of not being able to face, as Bashav Datta said, not being able to face that I am nothing, I have no identity. And therefore, I create identities, false or just transient, one identity after another, and changing friends, religions, parties. I changed the identification. It is not the same for all people, but what is the same for all people is the cause of this identification, which is my inability to face that actually I have no identity. Yeah, that's it.
Uh, can I speak something here? I'm really. Uh, I am working with the children and also in the field of education. One thing I feel that when when we are working with the words, because man's search for meaning, that is a very continuous uh, thing, and that's the continuous journey. Now, meaning through words, but the problem is that with the word we do not see the multiplicity of that. We attach the characters to the word so strongly, and that carried on. So we actually cannot explore pleasure, suffering, these words we are telling. We don't experience with its totality, but the words creates the screen. I mean, those words come as screen and cannot actually help us to relate with the experience with its totality. So word, thought, the relationship between words and thought, that also we need to explore, because words are so strongly embedded into our life. So are we living the idea or are we living the life? That is the thing.
Really good to see you after such a long time. We've been colleagues in Rajghat, right? Where are you? How are you now? Really has muted herself.
Piali is muted, I think. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working with the teachers. I'm near Coimbatore, south, for the
Okay.
last 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were Redmi, but now you turned out to be Piali. Good. Good to see you.
But on a lighter note, actually, though, Chaitanya, I think Piali did not have taken Redmi. Piali is far better identification.
Yeah, actually, Tagore, in many songs, Tagore has mentioned Rangiye diye jao rong, that redness is not just the red color, but
Right.
the whole experience. Again, not the word.
Talking about Tagore, I think on a lighter note, before anybody else wants to say, Basap's husband sings Tagore songs very well. So she sent me a surprise by sending a very nice song, which I shared, and everybody really liked it. Very well sung, Basap, very well sung.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Thank you.
Anybody else before we start? Slowly.
Payalji tried to say that word is not the thing.
Piali, yeah, Piali.
Payalji, yeah.
शंकर संजय कुछ बोलना है संजय नहीं अच्छा हो नरेश जी एंड ऑफ कोर्स समर्पिता चले গেল নাকি সমর্পিতা একদম কোয়েট সমর্পিতা কিছু বলবে নাকি শি ইজ বিউটিফুল
না আছে ও অ্যাকচুয়ালি এখন মুর্শিদাবাদে আছে
হ্যাঁ জানি হ্যাঁ রাইট
Is that the reason why she is not speaking? I mean, it has anything to do with Murshidabad, or she's just shy? Okay.
I think we can begin to close, Chaitanya. Maybe you want to do a little bit of winding up, and then we can do a conclusion. Anything else you want to say before we wind up?
I only want to say that I have come across many, write-ups and statements and sayings about relationships, but I have not come across anything which is as profound and as insightful as what Kay says. when he says it's a mirror, because in ancient books you see all so many techniques, so many ways suggested to have that encounter with the self. He's saying something very simple. He says self is nothing but a bundle of memories, and this is how you can understand it. And it is only after you have understood this self, not that glorious thousand petal lotus self, then that you may find something which is qualitatively very different from what you are experiencing now. So his statement about observation of self, about self-knowledge, about relationship being a process of self-revelation, about it being something that reveals the content of your consciousness, I see a lot of meaning. They make a lot of sense to me. And I wish we could go explore this, push it a little further, explore it a little more, not always in this forum, but even in our own lives, actual relationships, if you could examine. Not because somebody like Krishnamurti has said, somebody which a friend has said, some a strange fellow just said and disappeared into nothingness. So I think it's a very crucial aspect of what Krishnamurti said for 60 years, the importance of self-knowledge and the possibility of having it in relationship only. There's no other way. There is no psychological technique. There is no organization. There is no book. There is no method, no analysis that can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So I think